Like I was a person that put my identity in soccer, and that's something that took me very high, like, but also extremely low.
Mm.
Like there's no stability in that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so I think that if we put bad, like our identity on things of this world, they're gonna go up and down, up and down, up and down. But being able to put your identity in God gives you a stability that nothing else can give you. And that's how we were designed to be. Like we're designed by God with different gifts and like different paths, but that stability is God given.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your story with us. First of all, can you tell us where you're from? Describe the part of Spain that you come from
Okay.
and what the culture is like there.
Okay. Well, I'm from Barcelona, Spain. I grew up in like such a good family. Like I was really blessed with that to have like small family, but really deep connections with them. And so I just grew up playing soccer in the street with my friends, going to the beach, just living close to my grandparents, being able to visit them often. So Spain is predominantly Catholic, as you know, and in my family, my parents grew up in a like Catholic school, going to Catholic church.
Yeah.
My dad's side is like very Catholic. My mom's side is more like liberal,
Okay.
and so they're more like doing what they want, a little
Okay.
bit like more like freelance. And so, yeah, they never forced anything on me. They decided for me to just grow my own faith however I wanted. It was never a topic like at dinners or nothing. I know my grandma is like very like a really strong believer,
Okay.
and she's always praying for us and doing all these things. But like my parents, it was never a topic.
Yeah.
And also like in my family, I have my little cousins that they all been baptized. Like I remember going when I was like 15 to their baptism when they were
Okay.
babies. But that's something that my parents never wanted to do with me.
Okay.
They just wanted me to figure it out and to like make my own decisions in that because that's like you're basing your whole life on a belief in a
Yeah.
belief system, and like they didn't want to force it on me. So
Would you say that that's kind of a common thing in Spain, like for especially nowadays for parents to let their kids kind of make that decision for themselves, or was that kind of culturally a different approach that your parents took?
I think it's a bit of a different approach. I think when like my friends that are like their families are Catholic,
Yeah.
their parents like take them to church since they're young, and like have them get baptized, the confirmation, I think, and I don't know what else comes
Yeah.
after that. But like yeah, it's very common for families to introduce to their kids Catholicism. But
Okay.
my parents said no, it's up to you,
Yeah.
which is really good. I'm so thankful for it. Like today, because I've been able to walk my own journey, not
Yeah.
live my journey through my parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
huge.
That's great. Talk to us about your journey coming from Spain here. What led you to want to study in the States? And yeah, what were some of your goals for that?
So I've always grown up like playing soccer. That has been my like one of my favorite things, and my goal has always been to like play as high of a level as I can. And so at 18, my like academy soccer ended, and so I had to find a way to keep playing. And so I wanted to go professional in Spain, but I also wanted to study.
Mm.
And like they don't really give you that option. Is like either you go full professional or you go full study. There's no like sports in college, for
Right.
example,
Right.
like here. And so I just had some friends that came to the US and had like a really good experience. I just talked to them for a couple of days, and they told me how good of an experience it was and how much they were able to grow.
Nice.
And so yeah, I talked to my parents about it. They were like, yeah, go ahead, do it. It's like we trust in you. We know that like you're capable of achieving what you want, so just go with it. And I started like contacting different agencies that they're in charge of taking players from Europe to the US. And so it was a really easy process. Like my goal coming here was just to be able to play soccer and also be able to get a degree in what I
Nice.
wanted. And
Nice.
so they made it so easy. And Oku was able to give me like I decided to come because of the scholarship that coach was giving me.
Yeah.
That was my main goal. And because I didn't want my parents to like be pressed by
Mm.
economics, and also I chose to come here because they had a really good level of soccer.
Yeah.
So that was the main goal. It was not because of the school of business. It was not because of my faith.
Yeah.
It was just, it seemed right
Yeah.
in a way.
So that's one of the parts of your story that I love, is that you came here for a totally different reason than kind of even a little bit of why you're leaving, and with this renewed sense of purpose and kind of direction for your life. And so talk to us. You come here to play soccer, and that's why you came. Talk to us about this first couple of years that you were here, because it's totally different than the last half of your time here
Yeah.
at Oku. So
Yeah.
we'll get there eventually, but talk to us about that first part.
So, I mean, as an international, when you first come here, it's all excitement. It's all like it was my first time in the US.
Okay.
So you see like all the like movie places, you see like the movie like burgers, the movie food, like all these
Yeah.
things that you get excited about, like the Reese's, like we don't have those in
Okay.
Spain. So,
I love it. An American
but-
delicacy, right?
yeah.
Right.
But it's also exciting. You are like a bit blinded by
Yeah.
all the newness, and you come like to visit the university, and you see like the dorms, you see the CAF, you see the library, the soccer field, the like business classes, and you're a bit like in a way fogged by all
Yeah.
this excitement.
Yeah.
But my first year was great. It was like academically, I was doing good. I was adapting. The only thing that was really tough for me was what was it? Old Testament
Yeah.
and New Testament.
Yeah.
That was really tough
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. It's tough for everyone. It's okay.
But yeah, because they were like it seemed like they were speaking a completely different language to me.
Yeah.
Like it, like all the names of the books, all the like stories and everything. It was tough. Like I had no idea. And so yeah, there was this sense of newness and excitement and fun. Soccer was also going well. We got to the national final that year, so it was like pretty good semester.
Yeah.
But like everything was moving so fast, and I wasn't like catching up. You know, I wasn't able to like really move at that pace. And so when that second year came, it's when I like started to realize all the things that were missing, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You mentioned Old Testament and how that was a challenge for you.
Mm-hmm.
What was your reaction when you were starting to get into classes that were folding the Bible and spiritual topics into that? What made you kind of stick through that? What were some of your reactions when you're getting to that material?
So my main like driver was, okay, you pass your classes, you play soccer.
Yeah.
That was my motivation. And so I would try go there, like get my way through passing in order to be able to then go and be with my teammates, with my team, and being able to enjoy the main reason why I came here. And so it was rough because like, I remember walking into Dr. Enzer's class. He was speaking and like I couldn't understand what he was saying. Like I fully understood English, but I didn't understand nothing about faith, nothing about the New
Yeah.
Testament, the like Old Testament,
Yeah.
nothing. So I was like pretty lost.
Yeah. When you were talking with Dr. Enzer, was there a moment in class where you kind of, because I'm curious to know, you know, just you've mentioned him in your story. What kind of interactions were you having with him? Is there a time that you can think of that he helped you understand something you didn't understand before? Or, you know, what impact did he have on your time here?
So I remember Dr. Enzer has always been so helpful. Like not only with me, but I feel like with all the internationals. And I think that relationship has come because he's always like expressed like a lot of joy on having internationals and people from different places. But also we started talking about soccer. Like he really follows soccer. And that's something that made us like be able to talk about something. And through like those talks, he was able to help me and to introduce a bit of like faith and a bit of like scripture through that. And so my first like the first thought I had when I walked into those classes was like, okay, these people are like they think completely different from me. I don't understand what they believe in, and like in a way, like I didn't know when I first came here the power that like faith in athletes had. I only thought that ministry, like the people in ministry were believers, but I didn't know that athletes and like professors and like all these things were also like believers.
Yeah.
And so I just saw it as something for the ministry people, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't see it as something for everyone.
Yeah.
So
So talk to us a little bit about that. When did that click for you? Like when did it start making sense that you that wasn't just made available to ministry students, but even made available to you personally?
So I had an RA that was in my soccer team. It was my first RA, and also like second year RA, I think it was. But he like would go to the shower and like play worship and singing it out of his like out of his lungs. Like,
I love it.
what is like this guy doing? Like,
Was he a
I don't
good singer?
understand. Really good singer.
Okay,
Really
well,
good
that
singer.
works.
If he's
That helps.
watching this, he's a really good singer. But yeah, like that made me realize, okay, like faith is not only for like school and for chapel. It's also outside of that. It's
Yeah.
also a way of living.
Yeah.
And so he was able to guide me like in ways that I really needed at that time. And maybe I didn't think that I needed them, and I just thought I had the world figured out on my own. But he was able to like guide me without me even realizing much, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was able to see through him that faith was also in sports, but also in day-to-day life, also in singing in the shower. But yeah, it was a really good influence to have. His name is Bryce Stratton.
Oh, that's
Bryce.
awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to Bryce. So you're starting to interact with this more on a day-to-day level. Was there a moment of challenge, or like the term that I hear is like cognitive dissonance? What you're experiencing is different than what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And though you might have their temptation to kind of like pull back from that
Mm-hmm.
and go back to what's familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a low point at which you were thinking maybe this isn't for me?
Mm-hmm.
Or just kind of like, how did you get over that
Uh-huh.
kind of that hill to like start to say, maybe this applies to me too?
Uh-huh. So I remember the first few years, the first year, Dr. Weaver really impacted me because I felt like a lot of people were trying to push me into faith in a way that was like contrary to nature. When you're pushed to something you don't know, you kind of like to back off and like
Right.
you see it as something negative. And so having Dr. Weaver like not push it on us and be like, it's okay if you don't believe in God right now. Like we don't want to push you. We want you to have your own walk. And if you believe, it's your choice. If you don't believe, it's your choice. I'm still gonna love you. And so him being able to not push, especially internationals, to like in a way like throwing faith at us, it was really powerful because it helps us internationals to understand like, wow, like this is someone that understands where I'm coming from. He knows that if you push me, I'm gonna back off.
Right.
And so yeah, going on the question that you asked, sorry, it was like on my second year, it was really powerful to see how of a low point I was in. And right now I look at it and I can tell I was in a very low point. And at that time, it didn't seem as that bad. But I wanted to like quit school. And soccer was not going as I wanted to. The first year was great. Second year was not as good. And so that wanted me to like made me want to quit. Academics, the tougher classes were coming. I remember anatomy and like other tough classes that were in my schedule, and it was really rough. Like I didn't think I was gonna pass, and I just wanted to quit, go home. I also didn't see a future in the U.S. All I knew was Spain, and so being away from family, being away from the people that I love, my culture, my traditions, was a bit of like, wow, I don't feel like the love that I feel at home. And so being at a point where I wanted to quit everything and just fly home, I was so close to just calling my parents and telling them like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I know you've invested a lot in me coming to the US, but I cannot take it anymore. And so being in a point like that, I remember trying like everything from like journaling to listening to podcasts to just like meditating, going to the gym and all these things that kind of on the surface level seemed that things were moving differently and I was doing better. But then I would go back to my room and I was like, wow, like I'm empty. I don't have what I need. Like something's missing. And so I remember like I was about to go home. Like I really wanted to call my parents and tell them I'm done. Like I don't want to be here. And being like like what if all these crazy people that are praying and are like worshiping and going to chapel and reading the
Singing in the
gospel,
shower.
singing in the shower, what if they know something that I don't know? What if they're living a different experience of life that I'm not living right now? And so I remember like going into my room and just like out of desperation, I didn't know if something was going to change, if somebody was listening, but I just like closed my eyes and was like, God, if you're real, like, please help me. You probably know what's going on, so please help me. And so, of course, nothing happened in that moment. Like, nothing changed. It wasn't
Sky
like
didn't open
no,
and rays
no,
of light did
nothing
not come
happened in that
down. Yeah.
moment. But I like that was a way of that I see that it softened my heart, and so I was able to have Bryce, for example, talk to me, and I was able to accept it. I wasn't pushed. I was able to go to chapel instead of being on my phone. I was able to listen, and I was able to try to learn something, whether it was faith related or not faith related. I tried to learn something, and so yeah, like that was a bit of like the whole process.
Well, one of the things that you said when you spoke in chapel recently, which we'll post the link to that message that you shared with us in this podcast recording. But one of the things that you said that just struck me and it stuck with me since is that if you knew freshman and sophomore pole, you don't know senior year pole. Talk to us what you mean by that. Like, tell us what that's all about.
I feel like now, like after speaking in chapel, after getting baptized, I feel like I'm very approachable by people, and a lot of people like I don't know, like are willing to talk to me. But in my freshman and sophomore year, I was very closed off. I wasn't as open and as like just like as an open book as I'm right now. I like had a lot of pride. I thought I had the world figured out on my own, but I obviously didn't. And also, I had a lot of jealousy. Like I put all my value on soccer and school. Like there was nothing else for me. And so, yeah, that freshman and sophomore year polo was like lost. Like I felt like I had no soul. I didn't find my purpose. I was full of pride, jealousy, and so, like those were things that kind of like slowly helped me realize how of a dark place I was in, you know. And so right now you may see me as like, yes, leading the soccer team and like being super open, saying hi to everyone and speaking chapel, speaking here. But that's like completely opposite from where I was. I was very closed off to people. I didn't want nobody to talk to me, and I didn't want anybody to influence me. So
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big change.
Yeah. What's changed in the way that you see God? I mean, you've described a little bit about where you've come from and what you knew from your culture, your home culture. And now you've gone on your own personal journey.
Yep.
And even from the moment that you decided, God, if you're real, help me. What has changed in your view of God since that moment?
So, what's interesting is that I had never given it a thought throughout my teenage years up until I came here. It was never a thought. Like I thought that was something like for older people. I thought like because in my family, my grandma was the one that was a believer and is still a believer. But I saw something like that was something of the past. That was something of like the past generations, older people. I didn't see it as something that could influence today's day with social media, with like all the like technology, internet, all those things. I didn't see like God in that. And so now knowing that God knows everything, He knows all about technology. He knows everything that's gonna happen in the next years. And so I didn't realize that. I thought God was something of the past and didn't apply to today's day. And so, yeah, like now I see God as not only like a tool, but a way of living. Like
That's huge.
I generally don't like in my walk in my faith, like now I'm able to implement God in every decision I make and in how like I wake up every morning wanting to like help people. Like I think like every person has been designed by God with a gift. And I believe my gift is helping people. Like it's so easy for me to go and help. Like I have like infinite energy to go do that.
I love that.
And so yeah, like I feel like every decision and every action that you take in your day-to-day things has to be powered by God.
Mm.
You know,
Dude, that's so
that
good.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's great, Paul.
Well, and isn't that the way that Jesus came to show us how to live? Was that everything that we do is for the glory of God, whether it's things, you've mentioned like going to chapel and going to church, doing these things that are obvious things, right, that we would do as unto the Lord. But what if God wanted to use soccer as a way to reach others? What if God wanted to use the way that you go about your studies here in your degree? And that's one of the things that I kind of hear you saying is that now, because of what you're learning about God and who he is and his purpose for your life, it's given you kind of a renewed sense of purpose in these other areas. Talk to us specifically about soccer, because that was why you came to the US. That's why you came to Oakwoo. You came for one purpose, and I sense from what you're saying, you're now leaving with a totally different purpose, but soccer's still involved in that. So talk to us a little bit about how that purpose has kind of evolved and shaped over time now with your walk with Jesus.
So I remember that the first practice that we had in preseason in my freshman year, like one of the first things that Coach Jamie did was pray for us, and that's something that I had never seen. Like back home, your coaches don't like
Yeah.
involve their faith with you, like, and so like having that was like a shock. Like, wow, like what is this? Like, okay, he's the person that I work for. Jamie's the person that I work for. He's like my boss.
Yeah.
He's the one giving me the scholarship, and so like having a leader like that pray, like it was like, oh, like what is going on, like, okay, what is this, how can I learn? And so um from that freshman year, like now being able to be a senior and now become a Christian, I feel like I can influence my team,
Yeah.
not only in the soccer field but also in their faith.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed with such a team that like we have a lot of leaders, and we have so many leaders that not only are like amazing at soccer, but also amazing teammates and amazing followers of God.
Yeah.
And so it's been easy because I feel that I'm not alone in a way. I feel like I have a group that is willing to give all the glory to God after every game.
Yeah.
Right now in nationals, for example, like Tyler, which is one of my teammates from Ecuador, he was a pastor back in Ecuador and a youth pastor. And one day before our national conference championship, we were doing film with the team, and he like after film he stood up and shared the gospel for like 15 minutes.
That's awesome.
And like in a way, like it was so powerful to me to see how it focused the whole team into what matters.
Yeah.
You know, like it's at the end of the day, it's not about just winning the game or like winning the championship or like but it's glorifying God because he's the one that's giving all of this to us.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so that's an initiative that we've taken at the team, also with Tisco that got baptized the other day.
Yeah.
Like before every game that we have from now on, which are like the biggest games of the year, we're sharing a bit of the gospel.
Yeah. That's
So-
huge. And you just referenced one of the baptisms that happened the other day. And man, we might just start linking a bunch of chapels to this podcast episode recording
That's
for
right.
people to watch. But, in the spring, you got baptized. You went all in with your walk on Jesus, or with Jesus rather, to just declare that you are for him, that there's no going back. One of the things that continues to amaze me is whenever we have a soccer player that decides to take that step of baptism here on our campus, because we open it up for those that may not have seen a baptism here at Oakwoo. We open it up to where the person getting baptized can bring whoever they want with them up on the platform to kind of support them in that moment. One of the things that consistently like chokes me up whenever I have the honor of walking with a soccer player through baptism, whether it's the guys team or the girls team, is that whole team comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the whole team. I mean, and we have a lot of people on our soccer teams, like, and that stage is packed.
Yeah.
And one of the beautiful things, and I want you to kind of talk through this a little bit for us here, is the community on that soccer team and how God is using people like you, people like Cisco, who got baptized, like, and others to raise up an even better purpose, kind of like what you're saying, like
Mhm.
it's not just about soccer, it's about following Jesus. So talk to us a little bit
Mhm.
about the soccer community
Mhm.
and why community is so important, not just to your success on the field but your success in life.
Mhm. So, I mean, what you were talking about, the baptism,
Yeah.
I remember that I only invited like a few people, a few of my teammates, like my closest
And
people
the
I
rest of them
invited.
just came up.
Yes. And so Jamie actually orchestrated everything. Like the coaches,
That's
like,
awesome.
sent out a tech, like made a group chat where I was not in it and said, hey, Paul is getting baptized. We're all going to be there. And Danny was also getting
Yeah.
baptized from Colombia. And so we're all going to be there for them. And so I remember seeing people that I didn't expect, and I was like, oh, like reality hit.
Yeah.
I had imagined it as having like five of my closest people there,
Yeah.
having Coach Gracie, having Joao, William, and a couple more people. And I remember you calling me to go to get like to the stage,
Yeah.
and I look back and I see everyone there, and I was like, wow, like it was
Yeah.
insane, like out of this world experience, like having all those
Yeah.
people that maybe they don't believe in God, all
Yeah.
of them, but they still decide to be there in
Yep.
such a big day that we
Yep.
can glorify God. And so it was amazing. So it was all orchestrated by Jamie and
Yeah.
like coaches. I had no
It
idea
was a whole
that
party
it all
out there,
happened.
man.
Yeah.
Dozens of people.
Yeah. And so it's beautiful to see that, not only like with me, but also with Danny's
Yep.
baptism, with Disco's, also the women's soccer. I
Yeah.
think it was Elise that got baptized
Yeah.
last week. And so yeah, it's beautiful to see such a community
Yeah.
gather and giving all the honor and
Yeah.
surrendering themselves in order to be in a stage where maybe they don't like to be in stage,
Yeah.
but they're there to support their teammates,
Yeah.
which is beautiful.
Well, because if you think about it, there's got to be some people on, whether it's your team or another team represented here at Oakwood, that came to Oakwood for the same reason you did.
Hmm.
It wasn't faith oriented. It
Hmm.
wasn't to chase after the Lord. And yet, through your obedience and through the obedience of others to take the steps that God's encouraging you to take,
Hmm.
you're now inviting other people into not just your journey, but even maybe their own journey
Hmm.
with the Lord by just having them up on the stage, whether you
Hmm.
invited them up there or
Yeah.
coach. But that's one of the things that just continues to remind me of why living and walking with Jesus is so important
Hmm.
when we do that on a day-to-day basis, because just the way that you live your life and the way you lead others, it's naturally pulling them into an understanding of who God is and how
Hmm.
much he loves them and how much he's for them.
Hmm.
That in other ways we might not think
Yeah.
of living that kind of way and
Mm.
having those kinds of conversations. So it just stands out to me that
Yeah.
there's such a cool community on especially our soccer teams,
Yeah.
that when one person goes
Right.
up to take their step, whether others have taken that next step or
Mhm.
or walking with Jesus or not,
Yeah.
they're up there to support one another.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah. I think it's so, I mean, that's one of the things that just keeps coming up and over again in your story, Paul, is the importance of making a choice for yourself. Yes.
Yeah.
But also the role of community in that. And
Absolutely.
that there are people that are always a part of our journey and helping us,
Mhm.
pointing us to truth, being a positive influence in our lives. And it's important to seek those people out.
Absolutely.
And I just think that's beautiful. And what you're saying is just different people who have kind of helped you along the way.
Hmm.
That we kind of really don't do this on our own, do we?
No.
I'm curious that I'd like to come back to a couple of other parts of your story, but one of the things I'm interested in is you have a unique perspective as somebody who's an international student. And there's probably some of us listening who maybe we've gone to school with international students.
Hmm.
Maybe there's some people listening who don't really understand what it's like to be an international student, to leave your home and go to a different country.
Hmm.
And you've just mentioned, some of the difficulties of that. What do you think it would be important for those of us who want now to help international students, help people visiting our country who are pursuing an education and like people like you? What would you want us to know about how to help and support, come alongside international students?
So I don't think I have mentioned this, but when I first came to Oku, I had some like American teammates from my team help me with literally everything.
Cool.
Like I remember I had Giovanni, which was my roommate my first semester, and he was from Houston. Well, he is from Houston, and so I remember he got me like bed sheets because I came and I had nothing. I didn't have pillows. I didn't have like blankets. I remember him helping me with basic things that
Yeah.
I didn't know I needed, but were so helpful. And I think what can help international students is breaking that barrier of international students are only with international students
Mm.
and American
Mhm.
students are only with American
Yeah.
students. And so I think that has grown a lot since I first got here, or at least I've been able to see it more.
Mm.
But I feel like a lot more Americans are now willing to um, share their love and
Mm.
what they believe and what they want with internationals.
Mm.
I feel like I don't know, at least in my team, we're all a family and we're able to include everyone, and whoever has a problem, we deal with it as a family. We all go together, talk about it, and try to figure it out. So I think like for you, Tori, or for you, Aaron, like being able to be there when people need it. And
Mm.
like
That's good.
I think what I've been able to talk to some of my like friends, and they were telling me how International Week
Yeah.
was amazing.
Mm.
Like I remember them being so like having like a sense of like, wow, I belong here. I'm able to
Yeah.
carry my flag
Yeah.
and to just show off from where I'm from, because everybody loves where they were born. Everybody
Yeah.
like has an intimate relationship with where they were like
Yeah.
grew up. And so being able to do things like that, I think it's the
Mm.
first time
Yeah.
that's ever been done, right?
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people felt home
Mm.
in a way and felt represented
Yeah.
and taken care of.
Mm.
And weeks like that, where you can just show off your flag, stir up some conversation, talking
Yeah.
about home, I think that can help a lot internationals to make them feel like they belong.
Yeah. And that sense of belonging is not something that we just desire here at Oakwood for all people, but it really is inherent to the way of the kingdom, that
Hmm.
people would have a deep sense of belonging. And what Paul was referencing is our Go Week, where we take time and set it aside to focus on the global church. And one of the things that we tried this year, first time ever, was what we called a parade of nations. And so think of like the Olympics. Here on our campus of 600 ish students, we have 36 countries represented, which is crazy. Like that kind of cultural diversity here in such just a small, tiny place. And to see 36 flags waving across our chapel, like there was power in that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I got a little bit choked up even watching it because it was like, wow, this is kind of the vision of heaven in some
Yeah.
ways, that every tribe, every tongue, every nation would be represented. And so to hear others even have this sense of belonging and affinity for that is, it's why we do what we do.
Yeah.
That
That's
people
really
would feel
rewarding
like,
to hear that.
yeah, that they can belong not just to Oakwood, but even belong to the family of God.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. So
Yeah, definitely.
Paul, I'm curious, if you could go back before
Ooh.
you came to Oakwoo, so we're gonna time travel here for a
Mhm.
moment, and give yourself some wisdom or like some advice before coming to Oakwoo, what advice and or wisdom would you give yourself?
Well, that's a good question. Um, I would say be open to everything and accept what other people believe in.
Mm, yeah.
You don't have to like straight away believe in what other people tell you, but you can take a thought.
Yeah.
Because my perspective was like glass wall block, like everything was
Yeah.
like out. Like
Yeah.
I don't want people to influence me, and so
Mm.
I believe that if you're able to break that wall and be able to accept, you can learn something out of it, whether you want to implement it in your life or you don't want it, but you can at least give it a chance.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Powerful.
What we're coming to the close here.
Mhm.
A couple of other things I'd be curious to know. For what's different for you now? You've referenced some things that, like we're at the time of recording this, we've got a couple of important games for the soccer team
Mhm.
coming up. You're in national competition here. What do you think is different for you now? I know the game's still really important for you,
Mhm.
and performing well is important for you. But what do you think is different going into this and your outlook about
Mhm.
what might happen next?
So that's something that I've been able to talk to my friends a lot lately. It's that whether we win or lose, it's at the end of the day, it's God's plan. And like I was a person that put my identity in soccer, and that's something that took me very high, like, but also extremely low.
Mm.
Like there's no stability in that.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so being able to put my identity and the results that happen, whether they're good and we win or they're not as good and we don't win, having that stability of having that identity on God, is like what gives balance
Yeah.
Yeah.
to people's lives.
Yeah.
And so I think that if we put like our identity on things of this world, they're gonna go up and down, up and down, up and down. But being able to put your identity in God
Yeah.
gives you a stability that nothing else can
Yeah.
give you.
Yeah.
And that's how we were
That's
designed to be. Like we're designed by God with different gifts and like different paths, but that stability
Mm.
is God given.
Yeah. That's amazing. And then for outside of soccer, you know, you've mentioned being part of the business school. What are some of your, as you're dreaming about the future outside of soccer as well, life calling, what are some things that you see differently now too, in terms of what you hope to do in the future?
Mm-hmm. So I was a person that was very self-centered. And yes, I would put my family first before me, but I wouldn't put other people before me. And so like I see now that as I'm going to leave Oku, I'm a person that wants to help others instead of putting myself
Mhm.
first. And like that has been something that has like happened through my baptism, I believe,
Mm.
and through speaking chapel.
Mm.
Like I've been able to have conversations with people that I didn't even know, and they're asking me about my journey and about faith and about like the gospel, and I'm like, I don't have all the answers. I probably have like one of the people less qualified to talk to you about this, but let's figure it out together. Like I'm not gonna give you the perfect answer, but we can find a way to reach God and to get the answer that you really need, because He's gonna give you the answer. And if not, I'll also redirect them to you. But
Fair enough. I probably won't have the answer either, but no.
but yeah, my main focus right now is being able to help others. And so as I leave Oku, I'm going to Louisiana, where right now it's where my future like kind of looks like, where it's going for at least the next year.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be able to help kids like with coaching and being able to be a good influence for them, which at the end of the day is what really fulfills one's heart.
That's
Yeah.
huge.
That's great.
Kind of the high level version of your story here. You didn't necessarily grow up in an upbringing with faith kind of forced on you or expected of you. So you come to Oakville with really no faith orientation at all. You're coming for soccer. You wanted to leave, but God got a hold of your heart, and you stay, and you've given your life to Him. You've gone all in. You've been baptized. You're faithfully attending church and helping others kind of find their way with God. And you speak in chapel. Like, would you have thought as a freshman that you would be someone speaking in chapel, sharing the good news with others? And you're about to leave, which we're super sad about. Like that's obviously the
Yes.
worst part about what we do, Aaron, is that
No
they
kidding.
come to us and then they leave us. But Paul, one of the things that stands out to me about your story is just your openness to how God may want to use you, and then your willingness to say yes to that. Chapel, when I remember when I asked you to speak, you were like, no, thank you.
Please, that's not for me.
Yeah, literally. And yet, even despite your own level of discomfort with that, you said yes. And at least since the first time that I've been in this position, you were the first person to get up there and share your story, and then also share in the language of many of our students' heart language, which was Spanish. And I remember there was a shift in the room. I don't know, Aaron, if you felt that, but
Absolutely.
when you started speaking in Spanish, you were talking to a group of people that, quite honestly, we just regularly don't engage in their language. There was power in that. And I wonder if for a moment here, I could ask you to do something similar and talking to those that might be listening in Spanish and telling them what you would have shared with even our room there in the chapel, those in the room, like what God laid on your heart that day. Would you be willing to share that even now for those that might be listening? Aaron and I will do our best to keep up with what you're trying to say here, but would you be willing to share that same message even now.
Ajá. Yes. Que sepáis que en el camino de Jesús hay amor, hay fidelidad y hay fuerza. Cuando yo en mi primer año estaba aquí y estaba perdido, me quería ir a casa, no veía un futuro en el fútbol, no veía un futuro en Estados Unidos, no veía ningún futuro en mi vida. Y solo quería ir corriendo hacia casa, hacia mi cultura. Cuando fui capaz de dejar ese ego que yo tenía, dejarlo al lado y aceptar de alguna manera lo que Oku tiene para nosotros, pude de verdad empezar a vivir una vida más allá de lo que yo podía tocar y ver. Empezaba a vivir una vida donde confío en algo que ni puedo tocar, que ni puedo ver. Lo puedo escuchar, sí, lo puedo sentir, pero no lo puedo coger con mis manos, es intangible. Entonces, poder darle mi vida a Jesús y poder conocer a gente a través de él ha sido algo que me ha cambiado la vida, me ha abierto muchísimas puertas. Y sí, quizá empiezas a creer en Jesús y tu vida no va a cambiar al instante. Tu vida no va a ser todo arcoíris y todo cielo bonito y todo no. Va a ser un proceso largo, duro y difícil. Pero las recompensas que te da Jesús son innombrables, son cosas que nunca te podrías haber imaginado. Yo ahora, después de estar en un mal camino y estar 2 años aquí donde no veía un futuro, ahora me voy de Oku con muchas puertas abiertas, conociendo a gente que he podido crecer mi fe en ella y la fe que tengo con Dios a través de ella, pero también poder aprender de esta gente. Y es algo que me ha abierto puertas que nunca me habría imaginado. Veo un futuro claro ahora que tengo a Dios en mi vida y puedo decir que tengo estabilidad en mi vida gracias a Él. Así que si de alguna manera os puedo ayudar, por favor, enviadme un mensaje, dejar un comentario o lo que sea para que pueda ayudaros en vuestro camino. That's all.
Paul, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. On behalf of all of us at Oku who have had the chance to interact with you, we're very grateful that they've been here and just so proud of the ways that you've grown as a student, as an athlete, in your faith and your walk as well. And so we're just very grateful for you. And wherever you go from here, we're going to be following you with interest and supporting you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.